ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णकृष्णाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी आश्रिताय जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. We welcome everyone for today's first nectar of instruction. We are on the 8th one today. Tannama Rupa Charita Disukirtananu Smrityo Kramena Rasana Manasi Niyojya Tishan Vrajet Danuragi Jananugami Kalam Nayat Akhilam Iti Upadesha Saram Tannama Rupa Charitadi Sukirtananu Smrityo Kramena Rasana Manasi Niyojya Tishan Vrajet Tanuragi Jananugami Kalam Nayat Akhilam Iti Upadesha Saram Tannama Rupa Charitadi Sukirtananu Smrityo Kramena Rasana Manasi Niyojya Tishan Vrajet Tanuragi Jananugami Kalam Nayat Akhilam Iti Upadesha Saram. What word meaning? Tat of Lord Krishna. Nama, the holy name. Rupa, form. Charitadi, character, pastimes, and so on. So, Kirtana, in discussing or chanting nicely. Anusmartayoho, and in remembering. Kramena, gradually. Rasana, the tongue. Manasi, and the mind. Niyojya, engaging. Tishtan, deciding. Vraji, in Vraja. Tat, to Lord Krishna. Anuragi, attached. Jana, persons. Anugami, following. Kalam, time. Nayat, should utilize. Akhilam, full. Iti, thus. Upadesha, of advice or instruction. Saram, the essence. Before we read translation and purport, let's offer respect to 6 Goswamis. Nana Shastra Vichare Kalipano Sadhava Samsapako लोकानां हितकारिणो त्रिभुवने महन्यो शरण्याकरो राधा कृष्ण पदारविन्द भजना नन्देन मत्तालिकयो वन्दे रूप सनातनो रघुजुगो श्रीजीव गोपालको वन्दे रूप सनातनो रघुजुगो श्रीजीव गोपालको. Yes, reading translation and puppet by His Divine Grace, Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. The essence of all advice is that one should utilize one's full time, 24 hours a day, nicely chanting and remembering the Lord's divine name. Transcendental form, qualities, and eternal pastimes. Tannama Rupa Charitari Sukirtananam. Thereby gradually engaging one's tongue and mind. Smrityo Kramena Rasana Manasi Niyocya. In this way, one should reside in Vraja, Golok Vrindavan, Tishthan Vraje Tad, and serve Krishna under the guidance of devotees, Tad Anuragi Jananugami. One should follow in the footsteps of beloved devotees, that is Jananugami, who are deeply attached to his devotional service. Kalam Nayadakilam and Iti Upadesha Saram. This is the essence of all instructions. So what is the essence of all instructions? One should utilize one's full time, 24 hours a day, in nicely chanting and remembering the Lord's Guna, Rupa, Nama, Leela. And gradually, every word matters a lot, and thereby gradually engaging one's tongue and the mind. In this way, one should reside in Goloka Vrindavan. That's the second thing. And third thing, serve Krishna under the guidance of devotees. And who are they? Who are deeply attached to his devotional service. And what we have to do under the guidance, we should follow in the footsteps of the Lord's beloved devotees. Lord Shri Krishna says the same thing in Bhagavad Gita. Anyone remembers? Which chapter? Same thing. 10th chapter. What shloka? If not shloka number? Tesham ivanukampartham. No. What is the translation of it? ठीक है, तुम वर्ष बाद में बोलो, पहले श्लोक का मतलब बोलो तो समझ आएगा. तुम वही बोल रहे हो जहां बताया गया. श्लोक अर्थ क्या है? The guidance of devotees, one should follow in the footsteps of the हरे कृष्णा. आवाज में कुछ प्रॉब्लम आ रहा है? आवाज में बहुत प्रॉब्लम आ रहा है. हरे कृष्णा. अभी कैसी आवाज आ रही है? भाई तुम्हारा बैटरी कमजोर हो गया, इसका कुछ नहीं है. इसका लाइट खराब हो गया फिर. ऑलराइट. तुम लोग मेरा ब्लड प्रेशर बढ़ाओगे, हार्ट के पास रखा हुआ है. ठीक है, अभी ठीक है? इज इट बेटर? ऑलराइट. पॉकेट यहाँ बनानी चाहिए थी. यहाँ कुछ रखते हुए डलना शुरू जाता है. Okay. Yes, what are we talking about? So we're talking about Krishna says, serve under the guidance of Advaita Pranipatena. All right. One should follow in the footsteps of the Lord's beloved devotees. Very famous verses, very famous section. Yes, Anusmara. Where does it come? 415. बोलो क्या श्लोक है?
9:7. I don't remember if you have taken class 2. I remember. Maybe you have told that Lord is being followed like
Yes.
Sadhaka and all those.
No, not there. उड़ाते रहो गोलियां, नहीं मारते रहो गोलियां आसमान में. कहीं ना कहीं तो निशान लग जाएगा. हाँ, यूनिट 2 में आता है, मतलब चैप्टर 7 से लेकर चैप्टर 12 के बीच में आता है. करेक्ट. Next guess. Huh? No, that is different. You know, Mam Anusmara, Anusmara, Smara means remembrance. Remembering me, which is correct. How previous have okay. Yudhyacha, fight, engage. So verse number 7 and 8, very important verses of chapter number 8. अभ्यास योग युक्तेना अभ्यास योग युक्तेना. Yoga means meditation. Abhyas yoga means, meditation. Yuktena means engaged. Chetasananyagamina. Chetasa, chetana, na anyagamina, without deviation. So one should engage one's mind into remembering the Lord, Abhyas yoga, without deviation. Paramam Purusham Divyam. On whom? Paramam Purusham Divyam. On whom we should meditate. Now, how should we meditate? Yati Parthanu Chintayan. Yati means achieves, like attaining the destination. Partha, O son of Pratha. Anuchintayan. Chintayan means to meditate. कैसे? जैसे predecessors ने करा है. अनु. Chintayan. Follow in the footsteps of predecessors. And what is Rupa Goswami saying here? Kalam nayam no. Tishtan vraje tad anuragi jananu gami. Kalam nayad akhilam iti upadesha saram. So again, extension of our yesterday's discussion. I was highlighting how Srila Rupa Goswami, among the 11 verses, in the first 7 verses, let's show the first 7 verses. First 3 verses are all about I, fixing things within oneself. And the next 3 verses about serving Vaishnavas. So fixing oneself for what? So that I can serve Vaishnavas properly. We're not here to just get purified of anarthas. We are here to serve. We often forget this point. Mayavadi tendencies continues, we have come from that background, Gyani, whatever you want to call it. The impersonalistic Mayavadi tendencies continues, keeps on covering our intelligence again and again. So why am I getting purified? Why all those qualities mentioned? So that dadati, pratigranati, so that I can engage and serve the devotees. And then there are gradations of devotees, Krishna iti yasya giritam. And while serving, do not look at the externals, drashte sabhava janate papuchasta dosha. When we are able to serve devotees properly, then Syat Krishna Nama Charitadi Stapi Vitya Pito Patapsarasanasana Rochikanu. Then comes the subject matter of chanting offenselessly. When you talk about offenses, what are the 10 offenses mostly talked about? Isn't in relationship to devotees? Yes, to blaspheme the devotee who dedicated their life. And now comes text number 8. And in text number 8, what is Upadesha Saram? What is the essence of the whole instruction of NOI? So it means, in other words, NOI ends here, instruction ends. What happens after that? We'll take, that's a high level subject we'll read it. But here, instruction ends. What instruction ends? The essence of all advice is one should utilize whatever time you have, you should utilize in doing what? Smrityo, remembering. And chanting the Lord's Rupa Guna Nama Leela, and gradually engaging one's tongue and mind. So it's a gradual process. And like this, when we practice to engage our mind and tongue in remembering the Lord and chanting the glories of the Lord, then one can reside in Goloka Vrindavan. And after reciting Goloka Vrindavan, what you have to do? Serve Krishna. Can I serve Krishna now how I want to do it? No. Under the guidance, following in the footsteps of, at no point of time, you begin to render service by yourself. We're always, so Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give us Sankirtan. We have to get in the concept of family consciousness. Let's talk about brahmacharis. Brahmacharis struggle with this a lot, particularly at the Kanishta stage. They think मेरा जीवन, मेरी भक्ति, मेरी माला, मेरी सेवा, बस मैंने कर लिया, भक्ति में प्रगति कर लूंगा. It never works like that. I will not name it, but one particular leader, in his training to brahmacharis, he made a point to keep the brahmacharis together all through, even up to today. Young brahmacharis have this idea when somebody asks them, कि प्रभु आप यहाँ के class दो, वहाँ जाके class दो. You know, so who doesn't like to travel? And that too when you have a paid travel. And that too when you will be given a red carpet welcome. Isn't it? Sounds exciting, you know? So this is a trap. It looks like, we have become very good practitioner of my classes and chants others. So therefore I'm getting invitation, I should travel. But this particular leader did not allow that. He said, no, nothing doing. Stay back here and serve. Week after week, months after months, years after years. And because that happened, now the whole ISKCON worldwide community is getting this massive advantage of it. It's a role model community, role model society. The congregation as well as the brahmachari ashram, the most stable brahmachari ashram, where you have the stability of any ashram is for how long devotees have. And even after practice of years, they still continue to serve each other. That is actually a success of a community project. And look today what it is. Every one of them is staying together, serving together. And you would hear from this respective leader saying many times in the past that all of you addressing brahmacharis, each one of you can handle one country. Like that, you're powerful. But you still have to continue to serve here. It's a gradual thing. By learning to engage one's mind and senses. And then we begin to. So we have to be careful. Ussaha should be for following. Ussaha should not be to proving oneself. I am so great. How many of you agree? This is a challenge. At the back of mind, there is always this thing that I want to prove myself. Yes or no? Raise your hand. How many acknowledge this? That is not the meaning of Ussaha. देखो तो सही दिखाता हूं मैं किस खेस की मूली हूं. मैं कौन से वृंदावन के गांव से टपका हूं. Initially, there is a lot of this kind of thought process. So we have to be careful. Look farther. You have a whole life to serve. What's your problem? If you don't get to lead, if you don't get to give Bhagavatam, if you don't get to lead Aarti, what's your problem? समय के साथ तुम वरिष्ठ कहलाओगे. और वरिष्ठ के नाम पे तुम्हें सारी सेवा करनी पड़ेगी. And then you will excuse yourself, नहीं यार मेरा गला दुख रहा है, मैंने को नहीं गाना आज. It is but the fact of life. In the beginning looks like, अरे यार मेरे को गाने को नहीं देते, मेरे को भागवतम क्लास देने को नहीं देते, क्या है ये, अन्याय हो रहा है मेरे को सिर्फ किचन में डाला हुआ है, सिर्फ बर्तन घिसाते हैं, ये करते हैं. अभी तो इस चीज को लेकर रो रहा है. And भविष्य में जाकर, when you have everything, when you grow up, when you become senior, then everyone will ask you, प्रभु आप क्लास दे दो आज, प्रभु आप मंगल आरती करो. तो क्या बोलोगे? मैं ही मिलाऊं? क्या मतलब थका दिया तुम लोगों ने मुझे, कुछ तो ब्रेक दो. This is how the mind functions. This is the nature of the mind. So one should reside in Vraja and serve Krishna under the guidance of devotees. One should follow in the footsteps of the Lord's beloved devotees who are deeply attached to this river. So this is the secret of devotional life. Bhakti is practiced together. Bhakti is performed together. If you fail to relate and identify with the devotees, and despite practicing devotee, if you cannot identify and say, this is my family, who is your family? Maya Devi has got a family for you then. And that's the reason after practicing for months, years, let's go brahmacharis for that reason, at times they move, they leave. Now traditionally, earlier how brahmachari training was there, earlier brahmachari training was such that once he comes into brahmachari ashram, his social connection is completely gone. He does not exist for the society. Imagine, put yourself into the situation. Now you don't exist for the society. You have no bank balance. There is no relationship, nothing, no identification. And now you're serving your spiritual master, you're living in the ashram. Wouldn't you naturally begin to identify, this is my family? Yes or no? Yes. Why we fail to identify ISKCON as a family because of our own material connections. Therefore, I often say when you join Brahmachari ashram, the first thing you want to do is cut down, completely close your social profile. You should not exist, or else change your number. Even if for the sake of service you have to exist, you should not have any identification from your previous connections, because at your stage when you will see, अरे देखो वो इस कंपनी में यहाँ पहुंच गया, वो वहां पहुंच गया, उसकी शादी हो गई, और सब लोग बड़ी खूबसूरत हंसी हंसी फोटो डालते हैं, और सोचो उसी दिन उसकी डांट पड़ी है, वो सोच रहा होगा ये मैं कहाँ आ गया, कितनी डांट पड़ती है मेरी, और देखो ये मुझे कहा था कि भौतिक दुनिया इतनी दुख वाली है, मेरा दोस्त देखो कैसे मुस्कुरा रहा है, बड़ी कंपनी का मैनेजर बन गया है, शादी हो गई है, कितना खूबसूरत परिवार है। भाई सब फेसबुक पे तो हंसी फोटो डालते हैं ना। डाइवोर्स होने के बाद किसी की फोटो देखी है? बताओ जरा, डाइवोर्स पेपर साइन करते समय किसी की फोटो गई है फेसबुक पे? झगड़ते हुए फोटो खींच के डाली किसी ने? दिस इज माय एस्ट्रिक. That used to be. So why we are struggling as a sadhaka is we don't know who is our family. We don't know who is our relatives. For renunciates, is far much more important to identify, to take responsibility. They continue with their connections and all that. Okay? जीना यहाँ, मरना यहाँ, इसके बिना जाना कहाँ, right? Some movie song. जीना यहाँ, मरना यहाँ, इसके बिना जाना कहाँ. I guess Joker movie, something like that. Long ago. Some childhood memories are flashing in my head right now. ठीक है. Fine, so that's the point. And serve Krishna under the guidance of devotees and should fall in the footsteps of Lord's beloved devotees. Now another interesting thing about family ना, अपना घर छोड़ के सारे वाले फैमिली वाले लगते हैं. मतलब दूसरा मंदिर, वो लगता है कितने अच्छे भक्त हैं वहां के. जहां रहते हैं ना, वहां ऐसे लगता है पता नहीं है क्या परेशानी है, कुछ ना कुछ तो कमी है. Very standard thing. I mean, let's say ISKCON Pune. So many times happen when I go back now, somebody has some issues going on, some complaints going on, and they say, देखो तो हमारे ये प्रॉब्लम है, देखो वहाँ कितना अच्छा है. मैंने कहा तू कभी बाहर निकला नहीं है, तू बाहर निकलेगा कि तेरी डांट पड़ती है. You make a mistake, you get chastised here, and when you get chastised, the mind itself tricks you. And see, okay, let me put it this way. How many, like, have you seen this? Have you experienced? We often tend to say, our best friends are in long distance, which means they're far away. Now we call them as a best friend, but with whom we live, we often don't recognize them as best friends. Have you seen that? Kind of getting the point? मेरा अच्छा दोस्त कहाँ है? प्रभु जी वो वहां रहता है. कहाँ पे रहता है? हाथरस में रहता है. पुणे में रहते बोलोगे कहाँ? हाथरस में. मेरा अच्छा दोस्त कहाँ है? मेरा अच्छा दोस्त चेन्नई में रहता है. मेरा यहाँ जो रहता है अच्छा दोस्त कहाँ है? नहीं, यहाँ सब ठीक ठाक है, चल रहा है अपना काम. How many of you agree this? You seen this? It's a very strong thing, very strong thing. Well, otherwise, why would social media function? Why would people spend so much time on Facebook finding friends? I mean, क्या लोग इंडिया में क्या पॉपुलेशन की कमी है? जो तेरे को दोस्त नहीं मिल रहे, तेरे को न्यूयॉर्क से दोस्त ढूंढ रहे हैं. सोचो जरा, इंडिया में रहते हुए जगह जगह लोग हैं, तो बैठे हुए न्यूयॉर्क में फ्रेंड बना रहा है, वो यहाँ फ्रेंड बना रहा है. मतलब क्या है? This is just the trick of mind, and we are becoming so much covered over by it. We think, now why such a person cannot find good friends there? Any reason? Any idea? Why he thinks, this fellow who stays far away, he appreciates me so much. He's such a good friend of mine, who you probably would be meeting once or twice in a year, or maybe not. But with whom you're staying, we say, no, Prabhu, they don't like me, or we have a challenge, they don't listen to me, they don't cooperate with me. Any idea what goes on here? Whom to be blamed?
Because we don't know fully. Once we know fully,
Very good point, Ishika, because we don't know fully each other. Familiarity breeds contempt. Therefore, again in the scripture, what else? I'm just discussing what's the issues when why you can't have the family consciousness. Yes.
Mind's nature.
Mind's nature. And the grass is always greener on the other side. Okay. What else? Anand.
You only see the good side of the one who is living far away, but we see both good and bad sides of the
So those with whom we are living, we see both the good and bad. And those who are far off, we only get to see the good side. Yes.
Yes, same point. Like when you come closer, we see some more bad.
I'll put it the other way around. Those who are staying far off, they have not seen my bad side. That's the only thing. Again, if you see, you're putting the ball on the other court. Your all answers were handing off the responsibility to someone else. You see that? मैं तो बहुत अच्छा हूँ. Problem तो वहाँ पे है. You saw that? Reverse it. Problem is with no one else. With this I only. So why that long distance friend is a good friend? Because he has not seen my ugly side. And what is the problem with the people who are saying? They have seen my true nature. Therefore, they keep a distance. Is that making sense? So don't find complaints. You're making a mockery of yourself. Don't say he's not cooperating, that is not cooperating. You learn to cooperate, everyone cooperate. अगर वैष्णव community में कोई cooperate नहीं करेगा तो कहाँ cooperate करेगा भाई? I mean, this is bizarre. Even the Vaishnava community devotees will not cooperate. Where will he cooperate? तेरे लिए भगवान को तीसरी क्रिएशन का निर्माण करना पड़ जाएगा. अध्यात्मिक जगत, भौतिक जगत, तेरी जगत. जब तेरा संसार होगा लोग तेरे से cooperate करेगा तो भाई, how is it possible? So I would like or request all of you think deeply on the subject matter of why we fail to build the family consciousness. We are one team. Last instruction, Srila Prabhupada, the parting instruction, Srila Prabhupada was, your love for me would be shown how you cooperate. And cooperation can exist, can happen when we identify. Within the family, there's a natural cooperation because we call it family, isn't it? Something happened to a neighbor, you may or may not necessarily reciprocate, but within the family, this is my family. So do I see Srila Prabhupada's family as my family? Do I feel for it? Maybe not for the whole ISKCON at large, but at least for those places where we are growing up, where we have got training. Is that my community? Is that my family? Think about it. If not, no Vrindavan trip, huh? No way you're going to Vrindavan. मैं वृंदावन ट्रेन से बैठ के जाने की बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ. मैं वृंदावन यहाँ की बात कर रहा हूँ. जैसे श्लोक में बताया गया ना, how do you get entry in Vrindavan? Only when you have that consciousness. There is no entry to Vrindavan. You're not going to go and serve directly or in seclusion like this. We serve along with devotees. And what we're doing right now here is a training, under training. So we have to learn. So therefore, once again, I'll quote Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur, when the faults in others begin to overwhelm you, have patience, look within yourself and identify the same faults within you and try to fix it. That's it. Second thing, always see any such conflicting situation as a lesson for yourself. That Krishna is teaching me a lesson how I should not behave with others. Second thing, when such conflicting situation arises, if somebody does not behave properly with me, do not become disheartened. In fact, see it as an opportunity to grow because Krishna is teaching me how not to behave. Because I am getting hurt. Similarly, if I behave like this, the others will also get hurt. So it's a lesson for me. And probably I have not learned it. Therefore, Krishna is teaching me the hard way by bringing those devotees in my life who behave in a certain way that really irritates me. Because you didn't learn your lesson. Now you learn it because now you understand what is the pain and suffering the devotee undergoes when certain behavior is done. Some things some homeworks, things have to be done on ourselves. All right. So let's take a look at the purport now. Purport. Since the mind may be one's enemy or one's friend, one has to train the mind to become his friend. The Krishna consciousness movement is specially meant for training the mind to be always engaged in Krishna's business. The mind contains hundreds and thousands of impressions, not only of this life, but also of many, many lives of the past. In 5th canto, Rishabdev's section, there is a very beautiful verse comes where Rishabdev says, I don't have the verse right with me, it's in the 5th chapter. I don't have Vedabase here also now. Okay, anyways, I'll give you the exact reference. It is said where the mind is being compared with a prostitute. Very interesting shloka. The meaning of the shloka is just like an unchaste wife, even after getting married, maintains a paramour and then finds an opportunity to kill the husband. So mind is like this unchaste wife, prostitute. One should never put a faith on the mind, because when an opportunity is there, the mind will destroy you. Now, why I'm bringing this point of unchastity, this thing? I've been thinking of the subject matter lately. Uh, See, yesterday only we spoke about, how devotees could very easily identify with Prabhupada. Why we grew in leaps and bounds? Because everyone was identifying with Srila Prabhupada, because everyone was listening to Srila Prabhupada, everyone was reading to Srila Prabhupada's books. However, today, because we hear from many, many different individuals, draw different sense of inspirations. I would say at the beginning stages, unless one is really stable, it's not a good practice to do that, because we don't hear because it's a service. We hear because we like. It's a sense gratification. Hearing is also a seva. But because I hear, maybe it gives me intellectual gratification, different kind of activity that happens. Because of this, it's all Krishna Katha, fine. The devotee may be saying Krishna Katha, but what is happening is, it is through Vani Seva that one develops his relationship. Unfortunately, you'll find over a period of time, there's still a shallowness. The devotee cannot identify with any one devotee who is willing to say, whatever you say, I'm willing to follow. It just does not happen. I mean, I don't know how much you can relate at this stage. Krishna Chandra Prabhu, maybe you want to comment something on this point?
Truly agree to you,
Not
Prabhu.
available. 1 second. Audio settings. Yes.
We have to be very focused, especially we know the founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada. And once you start reading his book, hearing his lecture, you find a sense of belonging to Srila Prabhupada. And then you will also be more concerned of hearing Srila Prabhupada's disciple, because if you find Srila Prabhupada's disciple, they actually speak exactly what Prabhupada speaks, the facts and all. So, as you said, we cannot, as you said, the mind is like the prostitute. We want to hear so many things, but not focus in one area. So like reading Srila Prabhupada's books makes you conscious that, of Srila Prabhupada, you understand how much pain he has taken. Then only you find that it hits your heart that Krishna will definitely reciprocate.
And thank you for that wonderful comment. You look back in the lives of devotees, who you might be drawing inspiration as a role model and whatnot. Often, even in the case of Prabhupada disciples, you see how strong connection they had with their group. One person they very strongly identified. I was in Mayapur some time ago. His Honorable Haldar Swami Maharaj was giving a lecture. His premises of lecture is generally one thing, Guru Sharanagati. And at the end of the lecture, I met him and I asked a question on the subject matter. I said, these days we hear a lot. See, Bhagavatam classes, Bhagavatam class. We have to. And then that Prabhupada gave a system so that, we get to hear and appreciate other devotees, no doubt about it. But outside of Bhagavatam class, what we hear is the thing that indicates who you're drawing your inspiration, who you're willing to follow. Imagine you're drawing inspiration from some devotee who doesn't know you and who you can't meet also. Then how can he instruct you to do something? Is it making sense? You're listening to somebody who you don't know personally, he doesn't know you also, and he's not involved in you guiding in your life. Now, if there is somebody else who happens to have taken the seva of guiding you, now he tells you to do something, you'll not feel inspiration to do it. Yes or no? You're getting it? Because you're listening from somebody, drawing inspiration, you think, I like this hearing. But one who's telling you to do something, who's guiding you in personal life, you're not putting time and energy in building that relationship, then can you follow? Following becomes very difficult. So as Haldar Swami Maharaj said, he said, that's a problem with our movement today. People don't listen. There is no Guru Nishtha. His focus is Guru Nishtha. He said, there is no Guru Nishtha. When he said like this, I began to reflect and thought about it. I said, yeah, you see, therefore it is said, once in a week, I made the point yesterday also, one should hear regularly from one spiritual master. There should be one lecture of Srila Prabhupada, there should be one lecture of a special master, and there should be one lecture of those who are locally guiding you. To say that nahi maine Bhagavad Gita padh li hai, main yahan se sun raha hu, wahan se sun raha hu, it just spoils the whole relationship. It spoils the whole relationship. It really doesn't work like that. Because then person begins to think. And second thing, our false ego is so big. Back and forth, lot freaky idea aata hai. Inme kaun si badi baat hai? How many of you had that experience? Have thought like this? There was a devotee who was confessing to me, for his spiritual master, a brahmachari. He said, we would often hear from a spiritual master, and one day he was giving a class. I was thinking, yaar, kya badi baat hai? Wo bhi Bhagavad mein padhta, nahi Bhagavad mein padhta. This is how the mind tricks, This is how the mind tricks. And he said, I realized this fault within me when during the lecture, Maharaj said, when I was a brahmachari, if my leader have asked me to go and dig the hole, I would dig the hole. And I remember when I was digging the hole, despite it was raining, I will dig the hole. By the next morning, again, the hole would be full. I was thinking, I'm a 22-year-old boy. Why am I wasting my life and time here, digging the holes? How it is Krishna conscious? But then I remembered Maharaj saying, then I remember Prabhupada's instruction, follow your authority. For 1 week, I went on digging the hole. Every day, the hole was filled. But I knew by my digging the holes, Srila Prabhupada will be pleased. Now this brahmachari says, oh my goodness, I had a realization. I am very insignificant because I don't do things for the service of the Lord or for the service of the Guru. So then he said, well, we might know, as I was making a point yesterday also, maybe we have memorized shloka, we have learned things, but it has not come to practice. So for the respective spiritual master, for him, his action was governed by, this action would please my authority. And this is what Srila Prabhupada wants. So therefore, there was a consciousness. So this is why the mind is said to be, really tricky. The mind contains hundreds and thousands of impressions, not only of this life, but also many, many lives of the past. These impressions sometimes come in contact with one another and produce contradictory pictures. And this way, the mind's function can become dangerous for a conditioned soul. It's just like imagine, your TV is parallelly receiving 2 or 3 different signals. याद है जब हुआ करता था करके वो आता था स्क्रीन पर multiple signals, interference and all that. So वैसे तो हमारी default स्थिति है, हमेशा दिमाग में वो noise बनी रहती है, confusion वाली. So you say in this way the mind's function can become dangerous for a conditioned soul. So it's very important, very important. We cultivate this practice to follow. To think that I know now is very dangerous attitude. Students of psychology are aware of the mind's various psychological changes. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, 8.6, Yam yam bhavi sman bhavam teyajate yante kalevaram tam tameveti kaunteya sadata bhava bhavida. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. At the time of death, the mind, intelligence, living entity create the subtle form of a certain type of body for the next life. For example, Madhavendra Puri and his disciple. What was his name? Okay, what is the full name? Okay, something close to it because for the same name there was a one devotee also associated with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So anyways, so there was a disciple of Madhavendra Puri, very, very highly learned. And who at the end, when Madhavendra Puri was shedding tears of love and separation from the Lord, calling out, chanting the name of Radhe Radhe, this disciple, who was a sannyasi, great personality, he came and said to his Guru Maharaj, Guru Maharaj, what are you doing? You should be lean, you should be Om Shanti Shanti. Why are you crying tears like a sentimental? Your conscience should be absorbed in Brahman. What will happen to you? Now my question to you, what do you learn from this attitude? What exactly happened? Ramchandra Khan or Ramchandra Puri, something like that. I believe Puri mostly, right? Ramchandra Khan was another person. So Ramchandra Puri, like this. Any idea? What do you reflect from this? This person who Madhavendra Puri we glorify. We sitting here glorify as a pure devotee. For Madhendra Puri, Kheer Chor Gopinath stole the pot of sweet rice. We glorify. And there his disciple alone coming and telling him, Kya hai tum Radhe Radhe karke ro rahe ho? Why are you becoming sentimental? Om Shanti Shanti. Brahma mein leen hona hai tumhe. What do you indicate? What do you learn from this? Yes, Ravi Prabhu.
His disciple received the knowledge and relationship with his guru.
हाँ
When Guru Sahib relationship established,
गुरु के संग relationship establish नहीं हो पाया. Okay, Devi Prasad Prabhu.
because the disciple couldn't able to understand the mood of the Guru.
Disciple couldn't understand the mood of Guru. Yes.
And it is true when once is shown in instructing, it's like his guru or superior. It's an offense. An offense is because last year of my eyes I am God, which means now I have practiced, so I am better than my guru. Therefore, the mood.
Okay, so disciple is thinking I have become better than Guru or better than my serious. Niranjan Sakha Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Maybe the disciple is thinking Guru as an ordinary person and not recognizing him as a Guru at the later stage of his life.
Considering Guru to be an ordinary person. Okay, what else? Yes, Abhishek Prabhu.
No surrender due to pride.
No surrender due to pride, but he served all this while. How can you say no surrender? I mean, कोई वो 2 दिन पहले admission थोड़ा होता ब्रह्मचर्य आश्रम में उसका. He was there for a long time. He must have surrendered, isn't it? He must have rendered all kind of services.
He's not experiencing what Guru is experiencing.
He is not experienced Guru, so he can say anything.
He cannot experience what Guru is
So the point is, if you're not experienced, why did you say like this? Which means you have the right to say anything then? My point is, how did he say that? What indicates? What does it mean?
He lost his faith.
Huh?
He lost his faith.
He lost his faith. I mean, when did Madhavendra Puri taught him about Brahman realization? I mean, he was chanting the name Radhe Radhe, so he must have spoken about, going back to God at Goloka Vrindavan only. Okay.
Maybe he's advising not to regret.
Anything else? Anything else? Yes.
Probably must have got some different association.
He must have got different association. I mean, my take is that's the reason mind is said to be prostitute. Very difficult to trust. Can you imagine? He must have had such a long relationship with Madhavendra Puri. And even after, despite such a long relationship, now what did he do? For me, I learn a lesson, never trust your mind. He was cheated by his mind. Despite having such a long relationship, to think, therefore again I'm bringing it, in relationship with the senior, to bring out this whole concept of I know better. You're getting cheated by. That's what happened with Madhavendra. That's what happened with Ramchandra Khan. Puri. That's what happened with him. I know better. The problem arises from the mind. Have to be careful. If the mind suddenly thinks of something not very congenial, one has to take corresponding birth in the next land. One can think of Krishna at the time of death. He can be transferred to the spiritual world. Goloka Vrindavan. So if mind is so overpowering, so what hope is there for us to really, really bring our mind under control? Only one hope. Grace. Only one hope. Grace. Not possible otherwise. Not possible. Mercy. Now, why Ishwarpuri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chose Ishwarapuri as a spiritual master? Because he received the grace of Madhavendra Puri. Ishwarpuri was not, as described as learned and things like this as Ramachandra Puri is described about. Why Ishwarpuri? He received the grace. And look what reciprocation Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did. He accepted Ishwarpuri as his spiritual master. So the path of grace. This process of transmigration is very subtle. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami advised the devotees to train their minds in order that they will be unable to remember anything than Krishna. Similarly, the tongue should be trained to speak only of Krishna and to taste only Krishna Prasad. Srila Rupa Goswami further advises, Tishthan Vraji. One should live in Vrindavan or any part of Vrajabhumi. Vrajabhumi or the land of Vrindavan is supposed to be 84 kroshas in area. 1 krosha equal to square miles. When one makes Vrindavan his residence, he should take shelter of an advanced devotee there. Even after moving to Vrindavan, how are you supposed to live your life? You have to function under the guidance of another advanced devotee. Which part of our life we can act independently? No part of life. When one makes in this way, one should always think of Krishna and his pastimes. This is further elucidated by Srila Rupa Goswami Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Therefore, when I read Mahabharata, I really loved the character of Yudhishthira Maharaj. I was amazed by the character of Yudhishthira Maharaj. I mean, Yudhishthira Maharaj is no less than Dharmaraj, you know. And interesting thing that I observed, any personality would come. They would sit at their lotus feet. And more or less, the questions were same only. You know, I'm not saying all the questions were same, but more or less, he would sit and inquire. He would ask them and tell them, please give me guidance. How can I improve my Rajadharma? How can I improve my duties? Very fantastic attitude. Very fantastic attitude. Yeah. Now here in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Rupa says, Krishnam smaran janam chasya preshtam nija samhitam tat katharatas chasau uryadvasam vraje sada. A devotee should always reside in the transcendental realm of Vraja and always engage in Krishnam smaran janam chasya preshtam. The remembrance of Sri Krishna and his beloved associates. By following in the footsteps of such associates and by entering under their eternal guidance, one can acquire an intense desire to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Again, Srila Rupa Goswami states in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Seva Sadhaka Rupena Siddha Rupena Chatra Hi Tadbhava Lipsuna Karya Vajalokanu. In the transcendental realm of Braja, one should serve the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, with a feeling similar to that of his associates. One should place himself under the direct guidance of a particular associate of Krishna and should follow in his footsteps. This method is applicable both in the stage of sadhana and in the stage of sadhya, when one is Siddha Purush or a perfectly, spiritually perfected soul. So this ends Srila Prabhupada's commentary to this verse. What we have next is Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's commentary, which we shall see when we meet next time, which potentially would be next Saturday. I'm out for the next whole week. I'll be back on Friday evening. So next Saturday morning, if not, the following week, we'll continue our discussion. And probably before the end of this month, we would have at least discussed and covered this book titled as Nectar of Instruction. So why did I mention example of Yudhishthira Maharaj? What indicates, his behavior of always asking and taking guidance? What it indicates was he hardly had any false ego. You know, whatever he did, he was so much, something for us to learn, so much obedient to his seniors, so much obedient that he even followed the Dhritarashtra. That was the light of it. It was the Dhritarashtra who had actually said, of course, obedience was because then Nadmuni had come post Rajasuya Yajna and told him, Yudhishthira Maharaj, you will be the cause of destruction of your Guru Vamsha. And Yudhishthira got frightened and he said, yes. And Nadmuni ko aag lagani thi. Matlab, he had to, let the incidents happen, not aag lagana. I don't mean that way, but I mean to say he had to create the situation, let the next chapter begins. And then Yudhishthira said, well, the destruction of family can only happen when the subordinate becomes disobedient to his elders. So I take a vow, I will not disobey the orders of my seniors. And Duryodhana took a vow, I would not follow my seniors. And both opposing personality attracted each other at the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Positive, negative. And there was a dhamaka. All right. And Krishna was a common factor. So with that, we pause here. So I kind of highlighted today as well as yesterday, maybe day before yesterday also, we've been kind of speaking on cultivating and building this family consciousness. This is a big gift and boon for Vaishnavas. You cannot find this amongst the Gyanis. I'm reading one of the biography of some highly competitive life they live. That is not meant to be life of a devotee. And such a person you will see who becomes competitive in their mindset, हमेशा रोती शक्ल लेकर घूमते हैं. they'll not have the smile on their face. उनको लगता है मेरे संग अत्याचार हो रहा है, मेरा गला घोटा जा रहा है. हमें कुछ नहीं है, तुम्हारे मन ने तुम्हारा गला घोटा हुआ है करके. They look around here and they say, oh, इसने परेशान करा है, उसने परेशान करा है. So some thoughts onto it. Hare Krishna. Any questions, any comments?
Prabhu, from your podcast on your Gita, you mentioned about being God's companion or to be use God's resources. Could you elaborate that?
A little bit of context can you give? If in case I have to speak on that, I can elaborate, but a little context will help me.
Duryodhana wanted the army of Krishna.
Oh,
Yes, Krishna wanted the companion of.
yeah. Perfect.
Very, what do you call, nail-hitting point.
Correct, perfect. So point is, either become God's companion or else you get God's resources. So Duryodhana, he wanted the resources, and Arjuna wanted companionship of Krishna. So as a devotee of the Lord, what do we want? We want companionship of Krishna. But a non-devotee mindset would want resources. Puja labh pratishtha. That's the point about it. So that Arjuna's incident and Duryodhana's, Arjuna didn't even thought about it. Okay, you have given 2 options. Let me think. I'll come back. No, Krishna said, well, Arjuna is Anuj. He gets the first chance. Secondly, I saw him first. And I give 2 options to both of you. Choose me. I mean, it's okay to talk in historical incident, but try to put yourself into that situation. Think, how would you make a decision? You have a whole battle to fight. And you're anyways lacking on manpower. And now Krishna says, you can choose me, who's going to do nothing in the battlefield. आज का व्यक्ति होता तो सोचता है यार खाली पीली राशन भी खाएगा खाने की भी वांदे पड़ेंगे वहां बैटलफील्ड पे इसको खिलाना पड़ जाएगा कुछ करने वाला नहीं है this is that well I ain't gonna fight. You can have me or else you can have my army. Narayani Sena, the most powerful, the proven track and record, never been defeated. I mean, short guarantee if you get Narayani Sena, whoever gets it, the other side is going to lose. Very, very, very challenging situation to pick a call. We talk about ethical crisis. It is ethical crisis. का भी बात था अर्जुन के लिए क्या choose करूं? And look, nothing thought. Arjuna said, well, Krishna, I want you. And Duryodhan, पहले जब कृष्ण ने बोला ना, तो दुर्योधन के पसीने छूट गए थे. बोला यार ये तो फंसा दिया मेरे को. ये तो मैं फंस गया. And the moment Arjuna said, Krishna, I want you, दुर्योधन के उत्साह को देखना था. वो उसका माइंड और उसका फिजिकल बॉडी आउट ऑफ सिंक हो गया था. तो माइंड बॉडी अभी भी डिस्ट्रेस में था और माइंड बिल्कुल इतना कंफ्यूज हो गया. क्या बोला उसको कृष्ण चाहिए. He couldn't believe. Then he said, well, what can I do? If Arjuna wants it, he's my younger brother. Being an elder brother, I have to agree. All right, Arjun, your wish is fulfilled. That guy walked out. He asked Krishna, who is the minister? Where is his address? So I can take the army. Krishna said, Kritvarma, if I'm correct. He said, you'll find him there. He said, okay, thank you, Krishna. Walked out. As if Krishna doesn't exist. He walked off. And Arjuna was standing there only. And then the whole drama ended. Krishna looked, Arjuna, what did you do? What did you ask for? And Arjuna said, my dear Lord, wherever you are, I'm happy. Oh, what a thing. I don't need anything. It's a brilliant example to talk about faith. Brilliant example to speak about faith like that. So what do we want? We want God's companionship. We want God's resources. God companionship. So there is this whole process we have to go through like this. All right, Krishna Chandra Prabhu?
Yeah, that's another point also you made, Prabhupada's purpose. And now I realize that how counseling is very important because Prabhupada writes that Arjuna took the general counsel of Krishna. So, everyone, especially His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj, stress on counseling program. So from there, I realized that Arjuna himself took Krishna to counsel him. So this is something which you need to always take guidance from seniors. The other thing is that, you see, practically sometimes by anxiety, we tend to ask for resources from Krishna, you know. But I think we have to remind ourselves, say, no, just guide me, Krishna. I mean, this is some realization I'm just sharing with you.
Yeah, I mean, even if once have a spiritual master in today's day and time, because you may not be in direct touch with him in day-to-day life, Vani is there. But if there is no upper hand of somebody with whom you can relate and talk and interact, it creates a huge vacuum in the heart. There's a huge vacuum in the heart. And a person may try to fill that vacuum by becoming sentimental. My Gurudev, my Gurudev, my Gurudev. So you've seen people, they do a lot, all that kind of things, which even annoys spiritual master at times. They really do too much of Gurudev, Gurudev, Gurudev. That kind of state only indicates that there's a lot of shallowness, which they're trying to fill it up somehow, just bringing these thoughts that my Gurudev is everything for me. So His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj's idea of having this counselor is to provide, this is our Vedic culture, the senior will teach the other seniors, and the other seniors will teach the other seniors. For example, in ashram, Guru will come and give class, but the personal care was taken care of the junior batch by the senior batch. That had been the culture like this. In case of Prabhupada tried it also, but at times devotees couldn't go well. At the end of the day, everyone, came to Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada allowed that, but as the movement expands, it is needed. And imagine somebody has a shelter, and now that shelter goes away. How much emptiness will happen? How much emptiness? I remember one of my mentors in the past, back at Chicago Temple. So the devotee from whom he was deriving inspiration, who had become a temple president over there, a very wonderful devotee, and he was deriving a lot of inspiration from him. And suddenly something happened. He decided to quit and come back to India. Now, this particular devotee was himself a very great personality. When he decided to quit and come back, he said, I cannot do this, remote counseling. I only deal with, one-to-one person. So I would recommend you find shelter somewhere. I remember meeting my mentor. He cried for days. He felt such a huge emptiness. Now, despite every year, almost every quarter, meeting his spiritual master, that is His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj only, he would meet, personally talk to him. But that sense of shelter he got it from this particular relationship, which strengthened his relationship with spiritual master. So these are, these are things that really helps. And this is how we need to extend. Therefore, Bhakti Siddhanta Sri Thakur said, every devotee should be ready to spend 200 gallons of blood for the well-being of other Vaishnava or others. Like that. Oh, it's an interesting subject matter.
Thank you.
Yes. Hare Krishna. So, thank you everyone for joining in. We conclude here for today. Jadguru Srila Prabhupada ki, Srila Rupa Goswami ki, Upadesha Amrita ki. Hare Krishna.